Okay, so let's talk about AI. We all know our data is basically the fuel that makes it all run. It's one of the most valuable things on the planet right now. But who actually owns it? And maybe more importantly, who's getting rich off of it? Well, we're about to dive into a whole new architecture that could completely flip the script on that question. Just stop and really think about this for a second. What if every single thing you created online, every piece of information, every label you applied to a dataset, every ounce of your expertise, what if all of that generated real, actual income for you? It's a huge idea, right? And it's pretty much the core of what we're going to break down today.
You know, for decades, the internet has basically run on a handshake deal, on promises. We hand over our data to all these big platforms, and they promise to connect us, or entertain us, or whatever. But honestly, those promises are starting to feel pretty empty. Let's dig into why that whole model is broken and what's about to replace it.
So here's the fundamental problem we're all facing. AI has this bottomless appetite for human intelligence. You know, the very stuff we create every day. But the people actually providing that intelligence, the creators, we're often left with nothing. Just some confusing terms of service while our work gets scooped up for free. The system is just fundamentally busted. This chart really nails the shift we're talking about. Look at this. We're moving away from this world of empty promises and into one where everything is based on verifiable truth. Instead of data leakage, where your work just disappears into some corporate black hole, you get to have truly owned assets. And this is the big one. We replace this whole idea of maybe getting paid or having to negotiate for it with inevitable automatic royalties that are backed by math. All right, so how do we actually do this? How do we make it happen? The answer isn't some crazy new law or regulation. It's actually architectural. It starts at the very, very smallest level. A single contribution you make. Let's see how this thing gets built from the ground up.
See, in this new system, a contribution is no longer just a file you upload and then kind of forget about. No way. It gets transformed right from the start into a distinct, verified, and owned asset. This is the absolute key. By treating every little piece of data like property from the second it's created, the system stops it from ever just becoming noise in somebody else's database.
And there are 4 key anchors that make this ownership totally real. First, your identity and reputation. Your actual track record becomes valuable, like digital collateral. Then every single contribution gets its own unique cryptographic fingerprint, which is like its digital DNA. Third, a traceable lineage acts like a title deed for a house, proving exactly where it came from. And finally, and this is crucial, access is controlled by a policy gate. If an AI wants to use your data, it has to go through a gate that measures and bills it for every single interaction.
We talk a lot about owning our data, but it's always felt like this vague, fuzzy dream, right? Well, this next part is all about how this new architecture takes it out of the dream world and makes it a concrete mathematical reality.
The magic word here is deterministic. It's a pretty simple idea from computer science, really. It just means that if you put the same thing in, you will always get the same thing out, every single time. Now, when you apply that to data ownership, it means the result, your ownership, your royalties, is fixed. It's predictable. It's not up for debate or interpretation.
And think about the first huge consequence of a system like that. Usage is no longer a guess. It's not some estimate cooked up in a black box. A literal meter starts running every single time an AI model interacts with your data asset. Every read, every query, every single use, it's all accounted for.
So if the usage is perfectly metered, then it follows that royalties aren't something you have to haggle over anymore. There's no middleman. There's no corporate committee deciding what you're worth this quarter. The payment is calculated automatically by the code based on that real-time verified usage. It's just clean, simple, and fair.
And really, it all boils down to this single idea. The whole system is built to get rid of the need to trust big companies or intermediaries. The trust is shifted away from people and their promises, and it's placed in the transparent logic of the code itself. In this new AI DeFi economy, you only have to trust the math.
Now, when you make a shift this fundamental, it creates something truly profound. This isn't just a new way to get paid for your work, it's actually the foundation for an entirely new economic class of people. And this is where the really exciting vision starts to take shape.
Knowledge owners. Just let that term sink in for a second. These aren't just gig workers or content creators anymore. We're talking about individuals who are actively building a portfolio of their own digital assets, where their unique knowledge and expertise becomes a source of real, lasting, and compounding value.
So what does being a knowledge owner actually feel like? Well, it means every single piece of verified work you do is like laying another brick in your own personal financial fortress. Your data stops being something that gets taken from you, and it becomes a genuine, revenue-generating asset. You could argue that for the first time, the architecture of the internet is finally, truly on our side.
And that leads us to the final, and I think the most important question. In a world where every single contribution you make is an asset that you own, what will your portfolio look like? What knowledge are you going to turn into property? This is the future that's being built as we speak. And yeah, it could change absolutely everything.